Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on implementing AP automation remotely. My name is Brent Hametner. I lead the U.S. marketing efforts for Dooap, and I'm joined by my colleagues Amanda Strickland and Kristin Ewart, who work closely with our customers, ensuring they have a smooth integration and implementation. And so over the last 6 weeks or so, we've been thinking about how we can adapt our company to the changing needs and try to really understand how we can add value to others. And one of the ways we think we can do this is through our remote offering. So what we'd like to do during this time is walk through how a company that is struggling to manage their invoices could remotely implement an AP automation solution and dive into what that process looks like. I do want to mention that if at any point you do have any questions, there is a questions tab on the right side of your screen. Just ask away and we'll go ahead and try to answer those as they come up. So just briefly about the company, Dooap is an accounts payable automation company based in Austin, Texas. It connects specifically with D365AX2012 and FO. So some of the reasons that customers will choose us is we can help them save time and money, increase scalability, increase visibility and transparency into the accounts payable process. We are 100% paperless. We're built in the Microsoft Azure cloud, and we have a mobile app to help with some of the remote approvals, as we'll see. So Kristin, I was hoping we could begin quickly with the Dooap framework so we can see, really what the main idea of how Dooap works is in general.
Absolutely. Let's start talking about how invoices get into Dooap first. So there are 3 different options that we have available to you. We have a scan and capture service through Dooap. We'll set up a personalized email address where your vendors can send the invoices to. If you already have an email address, we can certainly set up a forwarding rule to have those emails forwarded to that personalized email address. Our scan and capture team will scan those invoice documents, capture the data through an OCR, validate the data, and make any corrections if need be prior to import into Dooap. This certainly relieves your team from any of the manual work that they're used to doing, and it frees them up for doing other tasks within the company. The second option would be using ReadSoft Online through Dooap. If you don't want the full scan and capture service and prefer to do the scanning and validation yourself, then certainly using the ReadSoft Online through Dooap is the option for you. This allows you to scan the documents yourself, or if they arrive via email, you can simply import them directly into your Dooap ReadSoft Online account. Conduct the OCR and validation prior to importing those into Dooap. Option 3 would be using your own in-house OCR software that you may be using already. If you didn't want the first 2 options, then we can certainly integrate that software you're currently using into Dooap. Once those invoices are imported into Dooap, they arrive into what we call an AP workspace. Within that AP workspace, we've got all of the invoices sitting in the queue waiting for processing. There's an approval workflow that lives outside of Dynamics. Our workflow engine is more flexible and less restrictive than the built-in Dynamics workflows, making it easier to process and approve invoices inside of Dooap. The non-PO invoices can be coded to either ledger or project accounts. The coding is validated in real time against the account structure in Dynamics. If it doesn't live in Dynamics, then you won't find it in Dooap. The PO invoice matching, we do recognize the 2-way and 3-way matching policy that lives inside of Dynamics. So upon import, if the PO number is on the invoice, Dooap will bring in the PO and the product receipt automatically onto the invoice. If there are deviations in price or quantity, or if the invoice includes any miscellaneous charges, those adjustments can be made inside of Dooap as well. We'll offer reporting through Power BI. As part of the implementation process, we create a set of reports based on the reporting needs, which are then refreshed 8 times a day for you. One of those reports does include a fast close report to help you settle those month-end invoices. Dooap invoices are stored on a dedicated database in the Azure cloud. You can also have an offline copy at any time that you'd like upon request. We also offer the option to have the invoice image stored in your Dynamics environment. So not only does the invoice live inside of Dooap, it can also live inside of Dynamics in that standard paperclip that you know. We keep detailed logs of all the actions taken within the Dooap system. So from the time of import to the time of transfer into Dynamics, everything is captured. We'll log all the history, and that also can be shown through a Power BI report should you need that information. Lastly, we take compliance very seriously. So since we're built within the Microsoft Azure cloud and specifically designed for the Dynamics platform, we make sure that we continuously keep up with the Microsoft requirements for compliance. And as I said before, we integrate seamlessly with Dynamics, processing invoices in real time, master data is kept in Dynamics, and everything is reflected into Dooap.
Hey, Kristin, it looks like we did get our first question. The question was asking, what is the exception rate on reading of the invoices?
There is a process for teaching the vendor templates. So in the beginning, there'll be a little bit of teaching of those templates as they come in. But once those templates are created and stored inside of the OCR software, the acceptance rate is between 95 and 98%. So you shouldn't see very many exceptions through after a couple of weeks of processing those invoices through that OCR software.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess let's say now that a company decides, oh, hey, Dooap looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get started. So then, Amanda, I guess where would we begin?
Sure. So for a basic implementation, we'll start off with a project kickoff meeting where we develop a project plan and timeline and walk through a project workbook, which is basically going to be where all of our information is stored for the project. Once the project plan has been defined, the next step is to connect the databases. There's a list of a few technical tasks that need to be completed by our team prior to connecting the databases. And the actual connection is what we call an enroll. This usually includes a meeting between the Azure Directory admin and a member of our technical team, and typically takes anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, depending on questions. Once this is complete, the consultant will apply basic configurations to the Dooap test environment. Next, the consultant will provide Dooap training to key users, which will kick off the UAT period. We typically split the full day training into two parts. In the first session, your team will learn how to configure the system, which includes maintaining company, vendor, and invoice type settings, and as well as configuring the user rights and the workflow presets. The second session is the usability training. In this session, we'll go into detailed training on how your users will navigate and use the invoice workspace based on the use case examples that your team provides. Key users will test the configuration and run through their process to ensure their business needs are met. And during this time, we will have a weekly Q&A call to go over any questions that may come up during the testing period. Once the testing's confirmed, we'll work with your Azure Directory admin to connect the production environments, and all configurations can then be set up in production. You can then take the software live whenever ready.
All right, so those are the steps, and we did get a question. The question was saying, how involved does the company IT team need to be? And I think if I remember right, we were planning on covering some of the responsibilities a little bit later. So just hold on to that question. And then I guess then the next thing is, now that we have like the project plan and the steps, what's the timeline? So like how long are we talking and getting things set up?
Sure. So as mentioned, the process is pretty straightforward. So for a basic implementation, we can have you up and running from 1 business week to 1 month. It really just depends on the resource availability. And this is an example of a basic implementation timeline. And as you can see, because our product is easily connected to your Dynamics environment and utilizes an API to source the master data from Dynamics, we don't really have to spend a lot of extra time setting up the environment within your Dynamics environment. So it's essentially ready out of the box. The configuration screens are easy to navigate and manage, which allows your team to be self-sufficient and not rely on Dooap to make necessary adjustments, thus reducing the time needed to complete the project.
All right. So, and I know in my experience, and this was kind of lends to the question that was asked, but whenever there is an internal process change, usually the first question people are thinking, how is this going to affect me in my department, and what will I need to do? And AP leaders probably wonder how much, I guess, work them and them team are going to have to do for the change. And so I was hoping we can now get to, I guess, the answer to the question that was asked about, really the responsibilities of everybody involved in a project like this.
Sure. So as I talked about earlier, I was kind of focusing on the basic implementation, which is a little bit more self-sufficient, more do-it-yourself, but still pretty easy to do. We do also have a standard implementation, which is a little bit more involved, but more on our side. So this is an example of the tasks and roles of a standard implementation. And as you could see, Dooap is heavily involved from start to finish. So they're either responsible for tasks or supporting the tasks throughout the entire process, which takes a lot of stress off of your team. And actually, we're helping guide you through each of these tasks. This ensures that you have the tools necessary to utilize the software and be successful with the implementation. So it's not a whole lot of responsibility, and a lot of these tasks are just one-off tasks, and completing the prerequisites are just some technical information that we need. So it's pretty simple. We deal with your IT to get those technical tasks, and then basically it's just getting the configuration and the training done and performing those tests. And we'll provide you with test cases to ensure that you have stepped through each piece of the system to make sure that it fits your business needs.
And Amanda, we did get a question. The question was, where are new vendors created and all vendors maintained?
Everything is maintained within the Dynamics environment. So essentially what we are is we're acting as an API. So in non-technical sense, we're sourcing the data from your Dynamics. So all of the data is stored within Dynamics, and we're pulling and pushing data between the two systems. But everything, all the master data lives within Dynamics.
Great, great. So I think this is pretty much all the information we had with regarding I guess, the implementation aspect. So what we'll go ahead and do now is, if there are any additional questions, feel free to ask them here in the next few seconds. And if there aren't any, then we'll go ahead and conclude here. But I'll give just a little bit of time to get those last questions in. All right, another question was, do you store copies of the invoices, and where?
I can take that one. We store the copies of invoices on the Azure cloud in the database. If you're using Dooap with the ReadSoft Online, we can store them inside of ReadSoft if you'd like, or we can just simply store them on the Dooap side. And again, as I mentioned before, they can live inside of Dooap as well as inside of Dynamics if that's how you would want it.
All right, awesome, awesome, cool. All right, well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions at the moment on the implementation aspect, so we'll go ahead and conclude here. Thanks, Kristin and Amanda. The recording will be available on our website, and if you'd like to learn more about Dooap, just visit our website at www.dooap.com. I also just mentioned in the chat window to just, if you'd like to get any I guess, one-on-one consultations or any meetings or demos set up, feel free to just reach out to myself, brent.hametner@dooap.com. So it's brent.hametner@dooap.com. So again, we'll go ahead and conclude here and be expecting the recording soon. Thanks everyone for joining.